welcome everybody. This is a training video for QB Industries for fitting up the quad bar. We're in the lab at the moment, so we're going through how to fit the quad bar to a quad bike. So the first thing we need to do is make sure we get all the parts out and make sure that we've got everything, put the quad bike on a nice flat surface, and then go through some of the things we've got here. We've got the fitting instructions. They've got more detail in them that might change slightly from our video today, and also it's got the safety requirements that you need to go through. And while we're talking about the paperwork, there's some items like the sticker that's on the warning sticker that's on it that cautions about hitting overhead obstacles and not loading the quad bar up with a load of any description. There's also another label on the main upright which just reminds you that this bar will probably need to be cut and to make sure the orientation of the joint is correct. Okay, we're just going to pre-assemble a couple of the parts. This is the top mounting bracket. We'll just slide that in there. Retaining collar and the bolts. And we just do the nuts up on them so they're ready to install the top bracket. The bottom bracket has the 3/4 UNF bolt go through the centre, and the bushes go either side and get inserted inside the bottom bracket like that. You don't need to do this nut up at this stage because we may need to remove that bolt at some stage, and that is ready to go on. Now that we've got the parts assembled, we can now move to putting them on the quad. Before I start on actually assembling it, I'm just going to go through some of the things like bolt tension and the features of the device. Okay, now what I'm going to talk about is the tensions of the nuts and bolts. It's quite important to get them correct. Probably one of the most important ones is the bottom nut down here. So you'll need a torque wrench and be able to torque this bolt up to 170 Newton meters. So it's quite tight. The other bolts are the two M10 bolts up here. The way we do them is we get it so it's the nuts just up on the surfaces each side of the bolt, and once those surfaces touch, then we need to do a 3/4 turn. So it's 3/4, half, and a 3/4 turn to make sure that that's done up. It applies to that bolt and that bolt. For the top mounting bolts up here, these can just be done up with a hand spanner, so they can just, once they snug, so now for the U-bolts to mount the top mounting plate, we want to get them so the surfaces are just touching and the stiffener plates all in position correctly. Once we've got it correctly aligned, so if this is an independent suspension model, we can put the suspension all the way up and all the way up and all the way down. And once that's in the correct position, we can then do up the U-bolts until it all starts to touch. And once we've done that, each of these legs must be done up another 1 to 1.5 turns. So we keep on doing it in quarter turn lots. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 1, and then again on the other side. So it's 1 to 1.5 turns. So that becomes really solid and can't move on that tube there. Now for the spring joint, we need to orientate it first before we can do it up. So this is most important. We're looking for the bolt being in line with the lugs in the front, looking through the vehicle so the scallops are facing rearwards. So that can now move backwards in case of accidental contact with an overhead obstacle. And once we manage to get that spotted in line, then we start doing the grub screws up. So again, we wait until we keep on going until we get contact with the thing, and then do 1/2 turn more on each of these grub screws, one there, and then 2 on the top as well. So we're making sure everything's straight and upright, and then until they contact, and then doing a 1/2 turn more. So what we're going to do now is try and talk about getting the quad bar nice and vertical. The reason we need it nice and vertical is for non-independent suspension vehicles like the swing axle ones, when you push down and up, that bush moves on the bottom part of the bar, and we need to make sure that that suspension moves all the way down and all the way up so it doesn't bind or do anything on it. So we need to get it nice and vertical. With different types of quad bikes, the distance between the back rack and the tow bar is a different distance. So we use the bottom tube like this to adjust the levelness of the quad bar between that point and that point. We'll also use the bottom bracket. Now that can either go that way or that way. So you can move where the bottom tube mounts either in or out depending on which way that goes. Then the bottom tube goes inside the main structure for the bolt to go through. So we can put the bolt through the holes and line that up. Now that's not going to go all the way down, so if you need to use these bottom holes, you'll have to cut this tube. Just make sure you cut the right end, not that end off. So we're just going to pick which hole we want. We can sometimes achieve making sure which hole we want just by putting it up sideways like that, so we can get a bit of an idea which hole we're going to be able to use and which way we need that bracket. Once we've achieved that, you can pop that up into the main tube, onto there, and whichever hole we've selected, pop our bolt in and we're ready to go. Now that we've got our tube in place, we can adjust the height so it's the correct height. Now there's 80 millimeters of tube goes inside there, and the minimum distance from there to there is 75 millimeters, so we can come up 155 millimeters and mark off 155 millimeters, and that's the height we can cut it. We can cut it a little bit higher if we want the quad bar a little bit higher. The recommended height is there. Now that we've managed to get the main structure cut to the right length, we can pop the joint on, orientated so we can, looking through the centre line, we've got the notches at the back. We can put the top part in and do up the grub screws as we talked about in the tension part of the video, making sure that the scallops are in the back, and then we can do a final check, make sure the U-bolts are done up to the correct tension so they're not going to move there, and the suspension moves fully up and down on the swing axle type machines and it doesn't bind at all. So we've got our correct height of the quad bar. It's nice and straight vertically up and down from the side, and from the rear it's all in one line. For some people that have these vehicles in the back of a ute or a pickup, they might need to take the top part out. For those reasons we offer the quick release setup. So you just undo the bolt on the side here, and once that's loose you can easily put it up. Mainly used by agronomists so they can get into the McDonald's drive-through.